Hey there, everybody out there in podcast land. Welcome back to another episode of Music That Matters, which is part of the content offerings thrown towards your ear holes by we who are Different Strings, a guitar podcast. It's me, Wes, and him, Andrew. And before we get going, Andrew, tell everybody how they can find us on the internet.
Again,
this is a new episode.
Oh, I know, but I've told I've told all of you already enough.
What if it's their first time listening?
Do you guys not know the concept of bookmarks? All right, you can go to fired out of a cannon, coming in hot for no reason. www.differentstringspodcast.com. Please and thank you, where you will find all sorts of shenanigans. Past episodes and blog posts, recipes, nuclear codes. I don't know. You're going to find all sorts of goofy stuff up there, but we would be honored if you would please visit our site and drop us a line, won't you?
Thank you. That was brilliant.
Thank
you. Here on Music That Matters, we alternate. We talk about great albums that I've chosen and weird shit that Andrew's chosen. That's not at all true. I think I've been responsible for most of the out of left field choices so far, which is not to say anything. I just like to throw it in there a little bit. But Andrew has chosen the album that will be discussed in this episode's selection. So take it away, Andrew, the orchestra leader.
All right. Well, so we've been dancing around this band for a while now. That they've come up a couple of times as we talk about guitar stuff. The name gets bandied about willy-nilly here and yon.
Both willy and nilly.
Exactly. I'm finally throwing down and I'm picking one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite albums. It is 2016's Periphery 3 Select Difficulty by none other than Periphery. Booyah. Okay. Blam, smackdown. I don't know. There it is.
There it is.
Whoop. There it is. Who let the dogs out? Insert phrase here. I don't know. All right. So Periphery 3 Select Difficulty. What can I say about Periphery that hasn't already been said?
Well, you can say a lot of things because I am not familiar with this band at all.
You almost are.
I almost are.
You maybe am.
Okay.
So, are you familiar with the Animals as Leaders?
Yes, I am familiar with Animals as Leaders.
Okay. Well, Misha was Misha, I call him. We're good buds.
Because you're buddies. Misha Mansour.
Mr. Mansour and I, we go back. He is good buddies with the boys in Animals as Leaders.
Okay.
Okay. But I digress. So, little bit of backstory. I mentioned Misha Mansour, who goes by the internet moniker, Bulb. I became aware of this
as in
young
dim
man,
or light?
As in light.
Gotcha.
He is no dim bulb, that Misha Mansour. I became aware of this fine young gentleman through his postings on the internet forums, the John Petrucci forum, 7string.org, and I believe others. He had a SoundClick page, not a SoundCloud, SoundClick, a very active one. Okay. And I think he even had a MySpace page. We're going back to like 2005, maybe.
So he's a millennial, is what you're saying.
Indeed, he is. He used to record songs and clips by his lonesome. He would program the drums in Superior Drummer in Cubase, and his
old school
and his tones, TONEZ, his tones were gotten. They got gotten with a Pod XT.
Oh, wow.
And They sounded good. My man knew how to make a Pod XT sound legit. He used to do like pickup demos and like guitar demos, and these were like 7 strings before 7 strings were everywhere,
Gotcha.
and occasionally 8 strings. And he would sometimes do like a quick cover of like a Meshuggah tune or just an original. They were, again, short clips, demos he'd call them, but they were amazing. He would just randomly release these short clips to the world, and they sounded ridiculous. And the man was doing them at home.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
that's
reading
how
his bio here.
yeah, that's how I became aware of the man Bulb. The band, I learned about a few years later, and I listened to. They were mainly instrumental songs
Okay.
from the first album, um, and they were amazing. And my understanding was he originally did these again by his lonesome, programming the drums, playing the bass and guitars, like all that stuff. And then eventually found musicians talented enough to actually record the damn things, and then went and redid them. Um, I will say this: he was one of the first musicians I ever heard that uses the studio as an instrument.
Yeah.
I mean, he
And
used the studio as an instrument. He did things that no one else was really doing, like the gating effect, cutting off the guitars like super, super, super gated,
yeah.
and like time correcting his guitars to like machine gun rhythm, tempos.
Sure.
And he was very, very good at that. So good that in fact, Tune Track had a bulb producer pack for a while, and like he was just making the rounds. But Periphery became a band. They eventually recorded their first album instrumentally, and then later got a singer, and then the
Okay.
singer kind of like recorded over it. But to me, it didn't sound right because the songs were written as instrumentals.
Right. And they
And then,
just slapped vocals on them.
right. And I think the first 2 records might have been a lot like that. But by the time they released their double album, Juggernaut and Omega, they had hit their stride. They were writing songs to be songs. And this album, Periphery 3, Select Difficulty, was what followed Omega and Juggernaut. And it is by far my favorite Periphery album.
Gotcha.
Um, it is Spencer Sotelo on vocals, Misha Mansour, Jake Bowen, Mark Holcomb on guitar, Adam Nolly Get Good on bass, and Matt Halpern on drums. And that is the lineup today, except for Nolly. Adam Nolly Get Good no longer plays bass with them.
Okay.
He, at least not live. He does their mixing, and he will do some other things for them, but he doesn't play the bass live anymore. They actually tour without a bass player. Remember, I mentioned that Pro Tools rig in a previous episode.
Yeah.
So Periphery tours with the Pro Tools rig and Axe Effects, and the Pro Tools rig does all the channel switching and effect switching on the Axe Effects via MIDI. But they also run their bass and probably some other like sound effects and things on the Pro Tools rig. So it sounds like really big and full. Anyway,
Okay.
Select Difficulty is a masterpiece. Again, front to back, every song slaps, banger after banger. Why Periphery? So, in my humble opinion, so first of all, Periphery's been out going on almost 20 years now, which is insane to think. I think they're class act from a musicianship perspective, from a personal perspective. I think they set a trend. They're not as heavy as Meshuggah. They're far more melodic.
But who is?
Right. Like, I feel like Meshuggah is almost like brain dead level of heavy.
Yeah.
Where they just lean on that, the low string. But they're still good. But I mean, Periphery is just otherworldly talented. Um, you have to listen to it to understand it. It's progressive, but still with the heaviest of heavy attitudes. But it's not like Dream Theater progressive. Dream
Okay.
Theater is almost like, Dream Theater is refined progressive.
Okay.
Like you can hear the Rush and the Yes and the Genesis influence. With Periphery, it's like you
A
can hear the
brawl.
Dream Theater influence, but also Meshuggah and Gojira and other like death metal and all. You hear it,
Gotcha.
but at the same time, they're extremely melodic. Their rhythms are very complex and technical. They don't lean on a 4/4. I mean, a lot of textures, um, a lot of symphonic and orchestral stuff. There are a lot of curveballs in their stuff.
Yeah.
I really feel like the best way to absorb Periphery is to like be in a quiet room with a good pair of headphones and just listen, lay down and like listen to it. Not
Gotcha.
loud because I think it's bludgeoning type heavy sometimes.
It'll destroy your hearing, kids.
Yeah, but you really to appreciate it, I do think it needs like at least a couple of listens. Um and like I said, it's to me it's very melodic, orchestral. It even has some pop stuff in it, legit. And like you can hear jazz infusion as well.
Yeah.
Really impressive. Um, but like Dream Theater, I would say if you're going to listen to it, you need to listen to it without trying to analyze it.
Right.
Because sometimes as musicians, we listen, and while we're listening, we're trying to learn it and
Yeah.
analyze it. And I think if you're going to do that, you're not really fully appreciating it.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I would say make it like just a listen. The other thing I'll say about Periphery is they have a very special place in my heart because it's one of the reasons my son plays in the first place. So I discovered Periphery when my son was just a couple of years old. And I was listening to them before he was. And I introduced them to him as he got older and started liking like rock music and heavy music. And they became his favorite band. And like it's
Cool.
something him and I share right now.
Yeah.
The one thing we don't share is he's capable of playing those songs and I'm not. um, so it's something we both share, but like I'll never forget, like we were listening to a lot of Select Difficulty when he was like, "Hey dad, I really want to learn how to play guitar." And I'm like, "Oh my God." That and Slipknot
Yeah.
were the two things he was listening to a lot when he was like, "I want to play guitar." So yeah,
Well, that's cool.
yeah. So I do think Periphery has had a massive they've made a massive mark on the music industry. They're I think they're trendsetters, they're leaders, not followers. I also think that as a band, they are very influential in the scene in general. They're from
Gotcha.
DC. So from the DC area, I think they're a class act in a lot of ways. And in some of those ways, like you don't hear a lot of drama coming from the Periphery camp.
Right.
It's just they just make great music. They have a great sense of humor. They love their fans. Like they do fan service a lot. They do a lot of interviews. They don't shy away from like being out there. And Misha's got his own little like business venture right now. Like he has GGD with with Nolly. They have they make contact libraries and plugins. He has some signature guitars, some signature pedals, some signature amps. I think for a while, if he think he still has a pedal company, Horizon. So yeah, he's out there doing the thing. Um, I do think they have at least a couple more good albums left in them. They're still fairly young. I don't think they've hit their. I mean, I do think Select Difficulty and the one that came after it, Periphery 4, Hail Stan, probably my two favorite Periphery albums. The one that just came out, Periphery 5, Djent is Not a Genre.
Their album titles are
Yeah,
amusing.
yeah, they keep upping the game. I haven't like fallen in love with this album yet. It's good. It's Periphery and it's
Yeah.
good. It's everything you like about them, but I don't know. I just haven't like got there yet, but the two that came before it are still my favorites. And yeah, that's so for me, select difficulty Periphery 3 is absolutely music that matters.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that, and thanks for sharing it with me. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure that I gave it a quick listen. Uh, Unfortunately, while I was trying to get some work done, so I wasn't focused.
Hmm.
Um, but I did notice, there's strings, there's horns, there's choir vocals.
Yes.
There's
Horns.
there's two songs that are under 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So, um, but there's also two songs that are like over 10 minutes too.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
that's their prog cred.
Hmm.
Um, but to me, it sounds, very heavy, very aggressive,
Hmm.
very gent,
Yeah. They
for lack
play.
of a better term.
Yeah, it's interesting. My son he's got my son, from listening to this type of music and learning it and playing it, he's got a very aggressive right hand, which you
Yeah.
need, and you have to attack the strings in a certain way. But it's also very left hand oriented. Like, there's things you do when you play this kind of music, you are really playing differently than almost any other style, I would
Yeah.
say. The left hand does different things in how you're muting strings and some of the other techniques, and your right hand very aggressive, but you have to be able to hit the strings in a manner such that you're almost like bouncing off of them. And the whole gent came from what it sounds like when you're gent, right? So I mean, it's a thing. In fact,
How's that again?
gent. I learned, actually, one of the hallmarks of gent is leaning heavily on the fifth, not the root. So if you go back and listen when you're listening to the songs, and when they're like really seriously like hammering down, and see
Okay.
if you can pick up on the fact that it's not the root you're hearing mostly on the guitar. It's actually like the fifth, or
Okay.
even something higher than that. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah. Um, but anyway, it's a very different style. Like, I can't, even if I could play the notes, I can't play the style. Like, I don't sound
Right.
the same.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So where my son really
It's
does, like,
it's
he's perfected that style.
you're not meant to, Boomer.
It's not for you,
It's
Dad.
not for you.
It's not a
It's not
phase,
for
man.
you. But you know what is for you, folks? The comment section. And you can drop some information about your favorite Periphery stories, whether it's an album, a song, a piece of gear. You met Mansour in 7-Eleven somewhere. Whatever works for you. We want to engage with you, and we want your ideas for future topics for the Music That Matters episode. So please share all that with us, and visit us at, Andrew, the website again.
differentstringspodcast.com. Please and thank you.
And we hope that you are having a good time listening to, playing, and making music of your own, and all that kind of stuff. We'll be back soon with another Music That Matters. Oh, I get to pick next time.
Damn right you do.
I may have to go weird on you. We'll see what happens.
Again.
Thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll see you again next time.
Peace.